Hey guys, welcome yet again to Motoroids. Meet Karan, who used to work with Motoroids earlier. And while this might look like a Polo GT TDI, this isn't your regulation car. This car dishes out about 135 HP and almost 300 Newton meters of torque and has a top speed of almost 200 kilometers per hour. But the most special part about whatever I just said is that you can get all of that performance without having to rob a bank. And to tell us how Karan managed to do that, we're just gonna get inside the car and start talking right about it. Karan, let's get inside the car. So Karan, why did you choose the Polo over any other car?
Well, I spent quite a considerable amount of time being an auto journalist, and then when I moved out into the corporate world, I wanted something which I could drive every day, which was efficient, although fun. And given my needs, I wanted a car with a small footprint because I had to spend a lot of time in traffic every day. So, Polo it was, yes.
Alright, so once you made up your mind, you bought this car. So what model is this? Which year? Which exact variant and how much did you pay for it?
This is a late 2017 GT TDI as the 1.5 liter engine, and when I bought this car, it had done about 78,000 kilometers. I paid 5.8 lakh in total.
Alright, so just to set the context, there was this drive since we are very good friends. We drove to Goa and we were coming back.
Yeah.
And just like the Samruddhi highway, which also does not have a very good surface, we realized that the car was not very planted when we were driving it fast and it was not as much fun as we would have wanted it to. And that's where the discussion started about replacing maybe the suspension. And I'll let Karan to take over from that point. What went through your mind and why did you replace the suspension? And which exact suspension system did you replace the stock suspension with? And what was the other option that you had?
The stock suspension was soft, also body roll was a bit more pronounced. So that is when I decided I needed an upgrade on that front. I did consider going back to the stock suspension, which is about 75 to 80,000 if you get it done at a dealership. I did consider Sachs for the struts, and I did consider Bilstein as well. So Bilstein B6 was available, just the struts alone, 4 struts was coming up to about 80,000 rupees, 90,000 rupees. Plus, in addition to that, you had to change a lot of other components, including the steering rack, the bushes, and the connecting rods and stuff like that. But when I dropped this car for the suspension overhaul job, the person there suggested there's another option available called Bilstein B4.
Right.
So B4 is a replacement for the stock suspension, and it is better on many counts while not being as expensive as the B6. And given our roads, I did consider the B6 for quite some time, but then I opted out because it did not really make sense spending that amount.
So basically,
Counts.
Bilstein was significantly superior as compared to the other two.
Yes.
At least in theory.
Yes, in
right?
theory, yes. Also, one reason why I did not finally consider the B6 was I heard that it's built for rugged use and it's
Okay.
built for heavier vehicles as well.
Okay.
So the ride would have become very uncomfortable, especially at slow speeds
Okay.
and within the city where I spend a lot of time in the car.
Okay. The B4 versus the B6.
Considering everything else as well, which you have to replace when you replace the or overhaul the suspension, the cost difference would have been around 70,000 more if I would have installed the B6.
So for the B4, how much did you end up spending eventually? Like
Eventually,
everything
including everything, including brakes as well, brake pads, and an EGR cleanup and an intercooler cleanup, I spent 1,10,000
for the B4.
for the B4 for the suspension job, which included B4 dampers,
Right.
and cleaning the EGR and the intercooler.
So how much was just the suspension system for?
Just the suspension system was about 95,000 to a lakh.
Okay. And had you gone for the corresponding B6 suspension system, how much would that have cost you?
I would have spent around 1,70,000 almost.
Okay. But from what I have also observed, if you're not going to be riding with too many people on board, this suspension system also is fantastic.
Yeah.
So if that is not the requirement, I would also personally recommend the B4 because I have experienced it now. So just to extend that conversation, when I experienced the suspension system on the Goa trip, I realized that this car was indeed in need of a suspension upgrade. And the day he upgraded the suspension, he came to me, we went for a drive, and the difference in the drive feel was night and day. Over undulations where this car would just jump and dance and you really have to lift off, with the B4, the car will just fly over everything, and minor undulations don't unsettle the car at all. Around bends also, the car really drives very flat. So it really brings out the performance of the Polo, which the rest of the chassis really deserves. So in that sense, if you're someone who's an enthusiast, the upgrade is really worth it. So that is the suspension part of it.
Yeah, plus if we are dishing out that information, what is also important to know is the springs are still stock,
Right.
and I haven't changed the coils.
Right.
They're still what came with the car fitted originally. And if you're someone who's into aesthetics and wants the car to be lowered, then you also get a Bilstein kit with lowering springs and dampers. A lot of people though get different coils and Bilstein dampers. So again, it's a mix and match. You can
Right.
play
But then
around with
again,
that.
will lead to a cost escalation.
Yeah, yeah.
That's, you have to be mindful of that. What we're talking about here is a very simple setup which is going to upgrade your car to a level where it's going to become probably the fastest car you can drive on the Indian roads while spending the least amount of money. So once the suspension system was upgraded, the easiest upgrade was like an engine remap. So let us know which all engine remaps did you consider, both the maps and the people or the outlets who are offering that upgrade,
Okay.
and within that also
Hmm.
the levels.
Right. So before anybody should think about a remap, there's one thing you need to consider is the health of your engine. By the time I considered a remap, this car had already clocked 1 lakh kilometers, and at about the 85,000 mark, I had changed the tensioner, the clutch, flywheel, the water pump, the accessories belt, and every other component which was showing age and should be replaced by that time. So it's only when I knew fully that the engine is healthy and is okay with the additional power is when I considered a remap. Now, coming to the actual remap, there are 3 or 4 options available within India. There's Code 6, there's Venom Performance, there's E-Tuners, and there's a couple more which I don't remember the name of right now. In Bombay, Karan Shah Motorsport is the place where you can get a Code 6 tune, is what I figured. And again, he also has a few other options available, Revo, among a few others. But then, from what I understood and what was widely popular, is that Code 6 is the ideal map for this engine, for the way it puts power down, and it's not very spiky because this is a turbocharged engine, anyways. So I did not want the low end performance to take a hit. I wanted performance to be gradual and the meat of the power to come in the mid range.
So just to let the audience know, there are different maps available wherein you can either have a lot of torque coming in earlier into the rev range or mid revs, or if you want a higher top end, you can probably have more power coming in, or maybe slightly more torque coming in the higher range of the revs. So this specific map enhances the mid range and the low end drivability and the torque of the car. I drove the car before the maps were installed, and I can clearly see a difference in terms of the low revs drivability of the car, and there's a significant improvement in the mid revs performance of the car as well. So the acceleration has improved drastically while also improving the drivability of the car. Have you seen any difference in terms of the fuel efficiency of the car as well?
It has gone up, especially when driven enthusiastically and even at ginger speeds like we're doing right now. So that, but within the city, there's not much of a difference. It's still about 12 to 13, which the car returns in chock-a-block traffic, which I drive every day. The car barely gets out of second gear from home to work. That's my commute.
Purely in terms of the performance of the car, the top speed is nudging 200. Like it's not crossing 200, but it's just a kilometer or two shy of 200. Given a long enough straight and some tailwind, it'll cross 200 kilometers per hour as well. But the more important difference that I observed when I drove the car was that the mid-range has improved drastically. Even below 2000 RPM, there is sufficient amount of shove. And after 2000 RPM, the car just flies. So there is absolutely no comparison between how the car was and how it is. It's significantly better to drive. There is much more torque available. And for an enthusiast, I really think that the car now drives so much better that you cannot really compare it to any other stock hatchback available in the country right now. It's heads and shoulders above every other car available in the market at this point in time. Now, that's about the performance bit.
Yeah.
You also have to take care of the engine with the enhanced performance. So how do you do that? Like, what exactly do you do to make sure that the engine is protected at all times?
So the moment I got the car, I sent it for an oil change and changing all the filters.
Which oil are you using, by the way?
I use Liqui Moly Top Tech 4100.
How much does it cost for a complete replacement?
So a 5-liter bottle costs about 5,500, 6,000 rupees.
Okay.
And on top of that, you need a fuel filter, air filter, and oil filter.
So how much is the damage every single time you replace the oil?
Every single time, because I buy the components either through Woodmo or Amazon, and that's about 10 to 11,000.
Okay.
And about 500 rupees for someone to replace the oil and the filters.
So about 11,000 bucks.
11,000 bucks.
On top of the engine oil, do you also use any additives to make sure that the engine is even more protected, or to probably get slightly better performance?
So every 10,000 kilometers, I've been emptying a bottle of Liqui Moly diesel purge into the tank. What that does is clean the fuel lines and also the injectors in some way. Besides that, there's also another liquid.
How much does that cost though?
That's about 900 rupees odd.
Okay, so 1,000 more.
Yeah.
Okay, so
that's 12, not very frequent.
12,000.
Yeah.
And the third thing?
The third thing, there's another Liqui Moly additive. It goes.
We have a Liqui Moly fan here.
Yeah.
Would you vouch for Liqui Moly performance?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Yes. For an engine which has clocked 100,000 kilometers, for the way it responds, for how it sounds, for its overall health, I can vouch for that oil, yes.
So what's the other additive that you're talking about?
It's also Liqui Moly.
What does it do?
What it does is it increases the cetane value of diesel, whatever you pop into the tank, and it also has certain cleansing agents. So how the car drives, how the engine responds once you empty that into the tank. For at least 2 or 3 tankfuls, it does work.
And how much does that cost?
That's about 550 rupees.
So that's now 12,500 and maybe 500 more if you want to empty one more bottle. So about 13,000 rupees this guy spends every 10,000 kilometers to make sure that the engine is protected and he's getting optimal performance from his car. So now when Mr. Karan got the suspension replaced and we went for a trip again and we were driving through some really sharp twisties, I figured that the car was understeering and it was going wide, and I pointed it to him, and the tires were quite hard, they were old, and he was also going in for an engine remap, and we discussed that the car is going to require better rubber, and for that he again upgraded the stock tire with something, and I'll hand it over to Karan now to let us know what make and model of tires he chose and why.
I knew for a fact that Michelin is that one brand I swear by, and I have verified how they perform. The only confusion was between the Pilot Sport and the Primacy 4. Okay. So there's a tire shop in Bombay called Sefi Tyres. It's quite old. The person who runs that business is well aware of how tires work and what the customer wants. And when I went to him with this dilemma. He suggested to stick with Primacy 4, the stock size, which is a 195/55 on 16-inch rims. The stock rims, by the way. And the Pilot Sport was only available in a 205. However, the problem with that was once you increase the width of tires, a,
Side
a
walls
section
cause a problem.
of the sidewall, it sticks out.
Mm.
And for how we drive and the places we go, when we go out with this car,
Just for the record, this
we
car
don't-
goes to all the off-roading places also, like not off-roading, but we take
Yeah.
the car off the road also quite a lot. And the Pilot Sport is a softer compound.
is a softer compound. Also, it would have jutted out. Could have been an easy case for a sidewall cut, which isn't a pleasant thing. So I avoided that, and I stuck with Primacy, and I couldn't have been happier. They are quieter, they are grippier. Braking distances have come down. Handling has improved by leaps and bounds, and there's nothing to complain. And they're not all that pricey either.
How much did you pay for them? A set of 5?
A set of 4.
Set of 4. You
yeah.
didn't get 5?
No,
Okay.
because the spare tire is a space saver.
Okay, cool.
So for 4, I paid 10,000 each.
Okay.
So not bad considering it's about 2,000 more than the run-of-the-mill tires that you can buy from someone like a Goodyear or a Yokohama.
The difference is significant even in the wet. When you drive the car fast, they're really difficult to lose the grip from, and they don't scream as much, and they're significantly better is what I can say. Okay, so you also have some problems with the stock headlamp,
Yeah.
right? So
yeah.
what are the changes you made to the headlight?
To improve illumination, I just replaced the fog lamp bulbs with H8 LEDs. They have these 3 colors they light up in, and when
White, amber, and yellow.
so white, amber, and yellow, which is more like a 4300 Kelvin temperature.
Okay.
So 3 different kinds of lights from one bulb, and it does improve illumination quite a lot.
Any other tips that you'd want to give anyone who's driving a Polo?
You need to be careful about maintenance. If you're driving this car enthusiastically, you can't skip oil changes, filter changes, and things which need addressing.
So just adding everything up together, like 5.78 lakh rupees for the car, for the suspension system, for the tires, for the engine oil, and all of these things. Like, how much have you spent on the car? Like, I'm not talking about the recurring expenditures.
Mhm.
I'm talking about the amount that you spent for the upgrades, including the remap. How much did the remap cost you?
The remap was about 30,000,
Okay.
but then I did not mind paying that amount because the car was being dynoed
Right.
while during the process, and the stock figure and the number after the remap I could verify, although it wasn't a deal breaker because that performance which is apparent after the remap says it all. So I don't know if the number could have been
30,000 rupees for the remap.
30,000 rupees for the remap, 40,000 for the tires.
That's 70.
70,000 for preventive maintenance of certain components like the clutch and the timing
So
belt
that
and
adds up to
everything.
1,40,000 rupees.
Yes, plus 1,10,000 for the suspension and everything.
So that comes to 2,50,000 rupees.
Yeah, and then the cost of the car.
That's about 6 lakh rupees.
Yeah, about 600.
So 8.5 lakh rupees, and you'll have a car that I assure you personally would require another such car to catch on Indian roads. It's the easiest way to get a fun car which is equally efficient, very robust, requires minimum maintenance, and is an absolute joy to drive. You can drive it over bad roads, you can drive it over well-paved roads and around corners. It's an absolute delight. In a straight line, it'll bring a big fat smile on your face. And for all of you who miss the Polo, I think it's a fantastic opportunity where you can just go out and maybe spend some time finding a 1.5 liter TDI and then upgrade it and enjoy it while you still can, before this whole EV madness takes over and takes away this beautiful joy that we had of driving, these old worldly cars. Very usable power, very efficient, and something which is very, very applicable on our roads. So for all those of you who are looking for a car that you can enjoy on a day-to-day basis, I really think that this is an upgrade which is very meaningful. And if you thought that this video was of any use or could be of any use to your friends, you can share it, like the video, do not forget to subscribe, and until next time, after thanking Karan for taking time out, this is Amit Changani signing off. Rev hard, rev free, and drive safe.
Thank you.